What is going on, y'all? This is the Caveman. I'm here with Football with Oz Austin for episode 69 of Against the Blitz. And usually for our Tuesday morning episodes, we've been kind of doing a weekly recap. But to be frank, week 8 was one of the worst weeks of football from an entertainment perspective, from like an analysis perspective. Like we felt like it'd be very mundane and boring just to talk about the very obvious things that happened this week. So we're changing it up and in this episode deciding to do a panic meter on 10 teams that we felt like fit the description. So 1 to 10, we're going to give every team we talk about a grade in that framework and talk about why we think there might be cause for concern. So Austin, how did you kind of go about planning for this one?
Well, I liked this premise a lot because I feel like even now, a lot of teams still have faith. Like everybody really, really wants to have faith in their team and in their process. But now that we're about halfway through the season, we're starting to get a little bit panicked about certain things. So we're looking at maybe some possible injuries. Maybe this brand new coach you brought on that you had faith in isn't quite looking, as good as you once hoped. There's a whole bunch of different factors that went into each of my grades, but I went into the rest of the season, but also the future for a lot of my grades. So, if you're building around maybe a young quarterback and he's not quite looking, up to par, your panic meter might be a little bit higher. But if it's just some small hiccups for this year, I might cut you a little slack.
Fair enough. Yeah, I kind of followed a pretty similar structure, but there's definitely some teams I might feel like, or you might feel like I'm personally overreacting to, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that very soon. Before we talk about it, though, as always, be sure you are joining the Discord down in the description below. Talk more football with all of us. We have a good time. I burn my French bread pizzas every single time, and I send the picture.
God, it's insane.
Like
I don't get
it. Every time I go to make a frozen pizza, it comes out looking like a literal like piece of coal. Like it's not even on purpose. I just set the air fryer to 15 minutes on 400, and I tell myself I'm going to check it in 5 minutes, and then I don't, and I forget.
You gotta set it to 5, man.
Yeah, I know. I got it. I'm going to learn my lesson one of these days.
All right.
But we are going to start with a team that also is currently looking like a piece of coal or a burnt piece of French bread pizza, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. They are at the top of my panic meter, the team that I ranked the highest on that scale. I gave them a 10. Like, I am flat out freaking the fuck out if I am a Vikings fan, because this season was supposed to be everything that it hasn't been. It is like disaster has struck in almost as many ways as they possibly could have if you were projecting it preseason, which is pretty unfortunate for a front office and a staff that I really had a lot of hope for.
Yeah. I shared a similar score. Also, my highest score, I gave him a 9. And the exact same reason. Like, you had the whole Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy argument. They chose the young guy. It looked bad for a little bit. He got hurt. We're still waiting on that full answer. But everything else, like, they shaved the Sam Darnold contract to bring in a whole bunch of other guys. They brought in Will Fries. They drafted Donovan Jackson. They brought in Ryan Kelly. The whole defensive tackles with Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. And really none of them have been high-impact players. Like, not a single one of those guys they brought in have done anything for them than that the guys last year weren't doing. And the defense isn't quite as dominant as it was. The quarterback play is 1% of what it was last season. If JJ McCarthy can't stay on the field, if he can't, be a franchise quarterback, which I don't know if he is, I would be absolutely panicking.
And the problem too with McCarthy is that even if he does stay on the field and he tries to make something out of this season, his supporting cast has been just not great. And that goes for Carson Wentz too. It's been a disaster up front. You kind of highlighted the guys they brought in. There's been a ton of injuries up front. And when you have a quarterback that we saw in McCarthy that was indecisive and not confident playing behind an offensive line that is not going to give him much time. It's going to give him the shakes pretty quick. It's just a recipe for disaster. It's like the exact opposite of a Kevin O'Connell ecosystem. It's really, we've known this offense to be very quarterback friendly. O'Connell has always done a good job of setting up whoever it is for success with this year for reasons that I would consider within, but mostly out of his control. It's been the complete opposite. And poor Carson Wentz, he steps in for JJ, and he is literally taking a beating to I guess keep McCarthy from going in when he wasn't ready, but he probably could have played. And it turns out that Carson was probably more injured than JJ, and now he needs shoulder surgery. And it was basically, from what it seems like, malpractice on the Vikings' part to force Wentz into that situation. And I can't imagine it's going to go nearly as well as it did with Wentz. It will probably go much worse with McCarthy, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a huge McCarthy guy to begin with, so I don't want to be overly negative about it, but it's just like from the ecosystem he existed in college, it is the literal opposite that he is going to try and exist in a Kevin O'Connell offense. And when you have the backbone of your team being Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and you specifically really struggled to get them the ball. Like, it wasn't until Carson Wentz came in, who still played bad, that was able to get them the ball. It's kind of a problem. And I know he didn't have Addison and he didn't have Christian Darrisaw back when McCarthy was playing, but still, the process just seemed so slow, so delayed. It was a problem. And I really hope that, maybe this time off can be like Bryce Young 2.0. He gets soft benched, he comes back in and he kills it. But I don't think JJ McCarthy is quite the prospect or player that Bryce Young is. So I'm a little worried about it.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, I think all of the alarms should be being rang right now. And I think most Vikings fans, most NFL fans probably aren't expecting much from the Vikings as far as the rest of this season goes. But if you're somehow still holding out hope that maybe this team is going to be in the playoffs or contending for anything, they're currently 3-4 in the hardest division in football. And they get the Lions, the Ravens, the Bears, the Packers, the Seahawks, and the Commanders in their next 6. It's over. This season is over for Minnesota. And I think that was what put them at like a 9 for me. But on top of the fact that we have no reason to believe that McCarthy is going to be the guy, small sample size, but as of right now, it's not looking good. That just pushes it to a 10. Like, it looked like a picture perfect situation for this entire organization going into 2025. And it just really has one up in flames. I mean, the Brian Flores defense, as much as it's, won them football games in the past, has also dealt with its fair share of struggles. Like Javon Hargrave, a guy you mentioned, he's been losing snaps. That was one of their biggest acquisitions this offseason. Blake Cashman, he was on IR. Van Ginkel has missed a lot of time. Like literally, you cannot tell me one thing about this team that has been positive. Like, Darrisaw came back and then got hurt. Didn't he miss the rest of that game against the Chargers?
I think I don't remember, but yeah, it's been a lot of bad luck too. Like it's not just like the process from the staff and the faculty's been wrong. It's also just like they just can't seem to find anything go the right way. But I do like your point about the small sample size, because that is like the most common argument about JJ is just like, we don't know. But to me, that's a problem. If I don't know what my quarterback is or who he is, I'm still going to be very, very worried. And if he can become and develop into this really talented quarterback, that's awesome. But that's not really what I saw at Michigan. And that's not really what I've saw in very limited action. So I do not really have much of a reason to be optimistic, which is the reason for my very high panic score. And this is
Yeah.
also partially kind of how I feel about the Atlanta Falcons, and why I also gave them a little bit one of my higher scores of the week with an 8.
I also gave them they also were my second highest score. I gave them a 9.1 on
Oh,
the panic scale. We got specific. This this is a disaster. Like shocker. Raheem Morris run organization is on fucking fire halfway through the season. Who could have saw this coming? Oh wait. Anybody with two functioning eyeballs. This team averages 17 points offensively per game. They have Bijan Robinson. They have Drake London. Michael Penix was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. They have a Sean McVay disciple at offensive coordinator. What the hell could possibly warrant 17 points per game? That is criminal. But at the end of the day, you look at the functionality of the organization, and I've pounded this drum for months now. And these are not problems with coordinators. These are not problems with individual players or schematics. I mean, even Morris's defense hasn't even been that bad. They're just trying to keep a terrible offense afloat. It just is. It comes down to the things that you can't measure, the numbers you can't measure. It's just the way that games are managed reflect the way that things happen in the locker room. There are just so many red flags that are reflecting in their play, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, you can't look at numbers, you can't look at schematics, you can't look at the pure coaches they have in place and really figure out what the problem is. It's just those little things that matter with the head coach when things are running and operating smoothly that Morris just doesn't check the boxes with. And like I said, the on-field product is the perfect reflection.
agreed. And it's hard to understand, like, when you look at it as like a Madden perspective, from a fantasy football perspective. You're like, man, I would kill it with that team.
Yeah.
When you're looking at all the weapons you have available to you, and that's kind of the problem for them, has been like when they handily took care of the Bills, and we were like, oh my god, like that this is one of the best performances of the year. They were unstoppable on the ground, through the air. Drake London did whatever he wanted. Bijan did whatever he wanted. And then now, the last 2 weeks, they've looked pedestrian. They've looked below pedestrian. They've looked homeless. And it's so strange. Like, it's almost like if Bijan doesn't, break 3 tackles a run and just demolish everyone, and if Drake London doesn't catch every contested catch thrown to him, their offense is completely sunk. And it's like they're not getting guys schemed open. They're not getting the ball to anybody that isn't named Drake London or Bijan. And when Drake London's out, it's only Kyle Pitts. They're not getting any of the other receivers involved, none of the other tight ends. It's just the most almost predictable scheme in the league. And that's kind of how it felt against the 49ers when they lost that game. You could almost sit back and predict every single third down and fourth down call. And I was trying to do it in real time, and I almost got all of them, because like it was just, they only have 1 or 2 options that they go to every single play. And eventually teams catch on. So if it can't be the Bijan and Drake London show, they got to figure something else out.
Yeah, agreed. And that's where you'd like to hope that the quarterback you selected 8th overall would be able to elevate, to potentially be a difference maker, but he really hasn't been. He's streaky. He's erratic. It's like if he's having a good game, he's having a good game. If he's not, he's most likely not going to bounce back. And even this past week with Kirk Cousins, it just, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I expected him to look better than Penix, but I most certainly expected the offense to maybe look similar, or at least operate at a level that was like professional. But they were just so bad. It looked like Kirk had never even played in Atlanta ever. Like, he wasn't even there for the last a year and a half. It just is so bizarre how there could have been no cohesiveness with a guy that was paid $40 bajillion to be your guy just a year ago, and he's been here ever since. So, like I said, it just kind of comes down to whatever is happening behind the scenes, that it's a complete breakdown. And it sucks because this really should be a fun team. This should be like what we saw against Buffalo, as much as it hurt for me and as aggravating as it was, it just was so exciting to see these star players just ball out. And once they're taken away, like you said, there's just no pivot. And I think the cherry on top, which I think will ultimately get Raheem Morris canned, is that they have the 10th overall pick in the draft as we speak, if the league ended today. But actually, they don't, because they traded that away for James Pierce, who has been, average.
Solid. Yeah,
He's
fine.
been fine. Has he been worth trading back up into the first round? No, especially not given the fact that you are bad. Your team is bad. Your defense is trying its best, but it's not a Brian Flores unit. It's not a Steelers on a good day unit. It's all right. It does its job, but that's not enough when your offense is scoring 17 points per game. So,
yeah, and the age behind this team is part of the reason that I gave them some grace, but at the same time, partially why I had issue with them, because my issue comes from the fact that your team is ran through Bijan Robinson, and as we both know, running backs that get ran into the ground don't have long shelf lives. So realistically, if you're going to ask your running back to, be the engine of your team, you can't waste his best years, picking 10th overall or anywhere near it. But I do give them some grace because a lot of their best players this year have been really young people on the defensive side of the ball. Even Drake London, Bijan Robinson, they're both sub 25 years old. Their quarterback's still a young guy. Xavier Watts is a possible defensive rookie of the year candidate. Jalen Walker and James Pierce have been okay when they've got to play, but I give them some grace. But overall, I'm just worried that all of their guys are going to hit their primes before the team ever actually really gets to become something.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like that's going to be the case as we speak. Like, it's just not. There's nothing about this team that makes you believe they're going to be any sort of NFC contenders, which is a shame. I mean, how many years in the NFC South can you get before you run away with it with all the talent they have? And they just have never capitalized. Like the way the Bucs have kind of been able to dominate the division. Dominate is a strong word. The way they've been able to win it over these past few years should have been the way that Atlanta, that should be Atlanta is I guess what I'm trying to say. But
yeah,
just disappointing. Big red button. I'm smashing the big red button in Atlanta right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, they might win too many games to get him fired again, but he might be like the new Mike Tomlin over there, just going 500 and being too decent to get fired. But like you said, like it's pretty wide open over there. Like I know they have a lot of good teams over in the NFC, but there aren't anybody that I'm writing in as a shoe-in for the playoffs or the Super Bowl. It's completely wide open. And that's partially why the Washington Commanders were able to make it so far last season, is because it's just wide open. And we've talked about it tirelessly in the offseason that this team really didn't do anything to further themselves as a contender team. So I gave the Washington Commanders an 8 as well, because your quarterback is running out of time on his rookie deal. You're not going to be able to build up, the rest of the supporting cast as good as you could have this past season. And as we saw today, when they didn't have Jaden Daniels in, they got their ass beat by the Chiefs.
Yeah, they really, I mean, they tried their best. Like, I'll give them credit. They did fight their ass off in the first half. They got a lucky interception off of Kelsey's face through his hands. They managed Marshawn Lattimore, that guy who shouldn't be playing anymore, picks off Mahomes. Like, it was such a weird first half. Like, they tried, they really did. If Debo doesn't fucking inexcusably drop a screen pass, that turns into 0 points on a drive they should have scored. Like, they really showed me like, okay, maybe what I wrote down before this game wasn't too accurate. But then, it just started to snowball as the game progressed. And like you said, it really comes down to Jaden Daniels being healthy. And when he's not there to really cover up a lot of the issues with this team, then that's the product you get. Like, you're going against a Kansas City team that you held to 7 points in the first half, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And you get ran over in the entire second half by 21 points. So I gave them a 7.3 just because I think part of it is because I kind of like, we talked about it so often. We kind of expected this regression, regression to the mean here for this team because they really did just run it back with a hope and a prayer. So I don't consider this to be the biggest like meltdown in a sense. I do think for Commanders fans, the expectation was certainly playoffs. The expectations were certainly to be back contending, in this conference. But at the end of the day, this is still a team that I think will need a lot of overhauling, and that was going to be regardless if they were good or not this year. So,
yeah.
They talk about age. Like this team is definitely. I wonder what they are like overall.
I think they are the oldest.
Starting 22.
I don't know about 22, but I do believe preseason they were listed as the oldest team, and I'm not sure how that's fared sense after cuts and all that. But yeah, and it's the age is partially why I have issue with this team. Is so many of your guys, Jaden Daniels for one, is a young quarterback, but when you're off that rookie deal, once he gets extended and is making big boy money, you will have less money to go out and sign other talent, which is also a problem, especially when they've already proven they're not great at doing that. You have big time guys like Terry McLaurin. He's like, I think he's like a year younger than Mike Evans. Like it's a very, very weird age group. Bobby Wagner. You have a lot of guys like Marshawn Lattimore that are starting for your team that are in their 30s, and they're not getting any younger. So all the starters are about to be gone, and your quarterback is about to make it a lot harder for you to sign other guys. So it's a very, very weird timeline that they're entering right now.
Yeah, it is. And it's going to be interesting to see how that front office manages it because this will be their, I'll say their first real test, but it's going to be many tests because they're not just going to have to fill one position or, allocate the resources to help out one group. It's going to be like across the board. They're going to need a linebacker. They're going to need another defensive back. They're going to need another receiver. Like they are going to need everything, like quite literally everything.
They need every position but quarterback. Like, if you went on a mock draft simulator right now and you picked anything but quarterback, I wouldn't bat an eye. Corner, safety, D line, O line, receiver, whatever. Do not care. It all works.
Yeah. So I think like on one hand, it's definitely a little bit of a scary time for Washington, but I think to some effect too, you don't feel as pressured to jump back into the contending conversation because you have to enter that rebuilding stage. So I think anybody, though, rationally speaking, should have seen this coming, right? Like
they didn't, though.
I mean,
I know we had them kind of in that like 9-ish, 10-ish win range with room to grow. I definitely thought they had room to get better and be a high level team, but they have had the injuries. Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin have missed a bunch of games.
Yeah.
That's not even where our issue is coming from. Like, we understand that. Like, you can't control that when your two best players are out. But it's that stacked up on the future. So this was your best chance to get something done. Like, while Terry's still kind of in his prime, Jaden Daniels is kicking ass. This was probably your best year, if not last year, to make some kind of run. While the NFC is still not quite, beastly yet. But it's kind of becoming really, really strong. And the Commanders are not looking quite as strong, especially in comparison this year to teams like the Seahawks that are kind of getting a lot better. So not feeling good, but it's not quite over for them yet.
No, it's not. But you are right. They are. The NFC is tough, and shockingly, they're not a part of it. Jaden Daniels isn't a part of it. They're kind of falling on the wayside here. But speaking of a team that I think there's a lot of panic deserved for, it's the Carolina Panthers, who I pinned at an 8.2 on my panic scale. The worst 4-4 team ever. I don't know how the fuck this team even got to 500 to begin with. Like, I cannot stand the Bryce Young supporters, dude. Like I looked at after the Bills put belt to ass against that sorry team this weekend, and they didn't even the Bills. I don't care what anybody says. They didn't look great doing it, but they managed to get it done that way. Anyway, I saw all of these people on my timeline, and when I was looking up, getting into Panthers Twitter, saying, Bryce's importance to this team cannot be overstated. You just saw how important Bryce Young is to this team. He's the MVP of the Panthers. It's like if Andy Dalton sucking against what's supposed to be a contending team in the AFC is your bar for how important your supposed franchise quarterback is, and your bar is pretty fucking low. Like, yeah, I hope to God that Andy Dalton against the Buffalo Bills would make you feel better about your franchise guy. Like, doesn't that seem a little bit like ironic to some extent?
Yeah.
So it just is. And what else is there going on? They have a backfield problem. They paid Chuba Hubbard, who now they're trying to get rid of because Rico Dowdle is apparently the most efficient ball carrier in the league.
Every single week. Every single week.
Like there wasn't a vision preseason. There's not a vision now. I don't think the quarterback fits with the scheme that they're trying to run. I don't like it. I don't like it.
I do think Bryce Young can be a good starting quarterback in this league, but like you said, the scheme does not match his skill set whatsoever. And they went out and got Ted McMillan. He's been fine as well. He's had his moments, but at the same time, he has not proven to be some kind of alpha one that can take. He has not taken over a game yet. He's had a couple, wide open end zone looks and, a couple 70-yard games here and there, but nothing that would make you look at that guy and go, that's an 8th overall wide receiver, especially when it was defense. Like, I don't care if you didn't have your guy at 8th overall, trade back, get more defense, draft 11 people to be on your defense. I don't care what you do. But they went the receiver route. It has not paid off yet. It's too early to say, but man, that defense got shredded by James Cook. And while he's a talented back, he's a top 10 running back in this league. To be on record watch through 3 quarters is insane. Like that's absolutely insane. And their commitment to getting Chuba Hubbard the ball for the tune of 2 yards a carry every single time. They want him to outsnap Rico Dowdle so bad to make their investment look a little bit better. They're not ran the right way yet at all.
No, they're not. And another team that they just can't find their footing at all. Like, even the games they've won have been so ugly. They've been games that they're losing. They look rough. Bryce Young throws his government mandated 1 interception, halfway through the fucking second quarter. And you're like, yep, here comes another game where the Panthers get killed, but then, they rally at the end. And if they come back, they come back. And if they don't, they make the score look a little bit more decent. But that's still not like impressive. That's not football that you should feel confident watching. I mean, this is it's just not been a cohesive team that's playing complementary football whatsoever. I mean, Bryce Young has thrown for 200 yards, I think, once this season. In fact, Bryce Young has only thrown for 200 yards. Actually, let me start that over. Bryce Young has only won 2 games in his NFL career where he's thrown for over 200 yards. So it's like, what? And this is a team that so badly wants to run the football, yet continues to invest in these supposed high-profile options at wide receiver. Like, they put the 31st overall pick in Leggett, the 8th overall pick in McMillan. Bryce Young's not really a quarterback that I ever envisioned being in an under center run first offense. Like, it just doesn't match. It really doesn't. And defense, like you said, defensively speaking, they shockingly were good against the run for the first 7 weeks, but the 8th week, their success rate numbers are definitely going to take quite a hit.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what is there to be positive about. Bryce Young, have fun.
Bryce Young's cool. Yeah, I mean, Bryce Young's talented. He can make things happen, and he is the engine to their offense. And I really like the guy, and I just hate how they've built everything around him because it, like you said, it makes no sense to have a quarterback of his profile and play style and turn him into something that he's not. He's a gamer, and they're treating him like he's just a backup quarterback and putting him in the shell, throwing it to receivers that can't separate. Like Xavier Legette, like that was their most productive receiver of the day. That's annoying. That's really, really annoying. And like they don't have a single receiver that you can confidently say is a good route runner, except for like Hunter Renfro, who doesn't play football anymore, apparently. So it's not a good look. The defense is even worse than the offense. To even get into that, they still have no pass rush. They have one good secondary player in Horn that we're happy has stayed healthy this long, but even then, that's been an issue for his entire career. It's a lot of bad question marks around them, but I don't know. I hate hating on the Panthers too much, but yeah, it just they've not given me any reason to be happy about their future.
I've become very, I don't want to say excited to hate on the Panthers, but they're just one of those fan bases, man. I just can't stand it. They've really come out of the woodwork as these delusional, like, just Mongols that just can't accept the fact that they got no future like this.
They earned it with Cam. They earned the right back then to gloat, but they have not had a reason to gloat since then, and they still do not now. I think they have a reason to kind of be optimistic with their record and the fact that they've been able to put together some scrappy wins. I think that can give you some optimism. Mine is more of a long-term issue in that with the current core of the team that I think that they're trying to build around, I don't think those guys are good enough to be a championship level core whatsoever.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, going back on the point of like this season, like this is not a good feeling 4-4. This really feels like a 2-5, 2-6 team to me more than 4-4. I genuinely cannot believe like they're actually 500, but this is not a good feeling 4-4 team. And, you know, like you said, that kind of speaks to the long term. Like the problems that we're talking about are not just like what we're seeing in the present, but like the plan for the future. And it just is ironic. We're kind of, you know, what the teams are talking about. A few of them are things we just pounded the drum about, you know, their issues months and months ago. And we're just seeing like the fruits of their, I guess not the fruits, but the consequences of their actions or lack thereof. And the Panthers are one of them. Mm-hmm. The Jaguars, though, are a team that, you know, I put a lot of faith in going into this season. I was very happy with their offseason. But right now, I think there are a lot of questions, although I wouldn't say I'm necessarily hitting the panic button on them as much. I put them at a 7 on my panic scale.
I had them at a 5. And it's also kind of just to the record, like they're winning games. And they've had some flashes of doing things that they haven't been able to do before, like run the football and play good defense. But the last 2 weeks, they've played some really tough. Actually, the last entire season, really, they've played tough opponents. Looking at their schedule now, but the last 2 weeks, when they've had 2 losses in a row, they played the Seahawks and the Rams, who are both playing exceptional football right now. And I would say everything felt up until they lost 35-7. To the Rams in a game that wasn't even remotely competitive, in a game without Puka Nacua. They didn't even have their best player, and they beat them by almost 30 points, which is definitely a pretty bad wake-up call. And that definitely gave them a couple points in my panic meter, because everything else before them, they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Niners, they beat the Texans. They were looking pretty good for a while, but Etienne's getting a little bit less efficient than he was earlier in the year. Brian Thomas, by week 7, has still not found himself somehow. And this is definitely looking like it's not just a 1-2 week stretch. It's kind of looking like this might be a year-long plus type thing. So those things together have gotten me some worry. But I think overall, Liam Cohen has given you enough to get pretty excited about for the future.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the process that we've seen has been correct. Everything that all the moves that they've made, they're well thought out. You can appreciate the plan of attack that they're trying to attack with, and it just is weird to me that this is a group that we were expecting to throw the ball a lot, have a ton of success through the air, but is it Trevor Lawrence, or is it, the Brian Thomas drops, or is it, maybe the offensive line, or is it the rushing attack that has been inefficient these last few weeks? There are weird like kinks in the hose with this team that I can't quite straighten out. I think I said it a couple weeks ago, but the way that Drake May is playing right now is the way that I think a lot of people expected Trevor Lawrence to look, especially in year 5, and Trevor Lawrence to look and Drake May to look like what Trevor Lawrence is looking in year 2. For him with Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter, who hasn't quite started playing full-time receiver yet, like for this offense to have the 28th ranked success rate on per dropback is pretty shocking. Like, I didn't expect it to all just click right off the bat, but 28th in success rate is pretty damning. And I think to that point too, they're still competing. They're still winning games despite this. So I think that's the bright side with Jacksonville, is whereas, you look at Carolina, for example, who I just kept throwing to the ground. They're 4-4, sure, but I don't think they have like a signature win. The Jaguars have a few.
They do. I think the Chiefs game is the one that I think of the most, where they looked super complete. They gave up 28 points, but the defense looked good generally against who I think should be the MVP and Patrick Mahomes. They played the Seahawks pretty close. I mean, it was a 1-score game. It was a good, solid game where the offense struggled, but the defense played well. And the only real panic button kind of game was, a Europe game at 9:30, which we know those games are all insane. And sometimes crazy things just happen. The traveling is nuts. There's no possible way everybody is, at their full wits, except maybe McVay, but he's just wired all the time. So that doesn't even really count. So yeah, I'm not going to panic too much on him. The most concerning thing has been the lack of support for Trevor, because on paper, like, yeah, sure, he should have a lot of support, but they're not catching footballs. Like, they're not making plays. It's just him having to put the ball in tight windows and hoping something good happens. And more often than not, especially with Brian Thomas Jr., only bad things have happened. So last game, they kind of showed a little bit more of a spotlight to leaning on Travis Hunter, like we were kind of wanting them to do a couple weeks ago. And he comes out, debuts like his first real full game at receiver, and gets over 100 yards. He looked really good. I'm curious if they keep that up.
I don't know if it's truly correlated. I will actually say it's not, but I do just find it interesting that Brenton Strange has not played the last 2 weeks due to an injury, and both of those games, their offense has completely looked broken. Like, they scored 26 points against San Francisco, 31 against the Chiefs, 26 against the Panthers the first week, 27 against the Bengals, only 17 against Houston, but they're good. And then
defense,
without Brenton, the last 2 weeks they've scored a combined 19 points. Like, I'm not trying to say Brenton Strange is the MVP or anything, but he might be the most important player on the offense.
Might be. I mean, he's the only one that catches shit for sure.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, like, it's not going to be Brian Thomas Jr. and I don't. It's not De'Ami Brown. Travis Hunter, I don't think he's had a lot of drop issues. I don't think anyone else really outside of the top 2 receivers have been dropping a lot of shit, but I don't know. I just haven't seen a lot of plays made, and that gets me a little bit worried. But overall, Trevor still hasn't been bad enough for me to still panic yet. They've won the games they've needed to win. A lot of them, they looked pretty dominant against really good teams. It's just been a couple weeks, so the panic level gets a little bit higher because it's been a couple weeks. But if they can come back and get a good win against the Raiders, I'll feel good about it. And that's a very, very, very winnable game.
Yeah, agreed. I want to preface that my 7 is probably closer to equals of Austin's 5. So I like my scale. I think we're just a little off on the kilter, but my 7 is not like as strong as maybe some other 7s. So they're definitely a team I'm not, freaking out about to the extent like I am the Panthers, for example.
Sure.
But yeah, the Jaguars, their highs are high and their lows are low. That's really this roller coaster for them. And I feel like the same could be said for the Broncos. They're a team that I don't want to say I can't quite figure out, because I feel like we have a good pulse on them. But after this game against the Broncos, against the Cowboys, I am confused again. Like I understand that the defense of Dallas probably couldn't stop, Ty Simpson right now, but at the same time, like I thought the Cowboys were kind of going to make that a game, and they just completely shut down one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. I gave them a panic scale number of 6.5, which is lower for me, but
yeah,
weird.
For them, I gave them a 3, and I can't panic, but you can ask questions like when you beat the Eagles and you beat the Cowboys by 20, and their only losses are 1-score losses to playoff teams and the Chargers and the Colts. Like, there's not a lot to panic about. They beat the Bengals by like 25, but like it's those games in between. They only beat the Jets by 2 in a game that Justin Fields played the worst quarterback game I've ever watched in my life. And they had to come back miraculously to beat a Malik Neighbors-less Giants team. And they had a lot of lucky moments along the way. Like it's like Bo Nix has found some confidence and he's played really, really well, probably 3 out of the 4 last weeks. And they're starting to get their young guys involved. They're finally getting Evan Ingram involved. They're finally getting RJ Harvey involved. They're finally getting Troy Franklin involved. And they are seeing results out of that. But part of that also might just be to the caliber of teams they've played. I'm not sure. But it feels like they are the epitome of a team that plays exactly to the level of their competition. They can beat the Eagles in a scrape-by game, but they also will barely beat the Jets and the Giants as well.
Yeah, I mean, they lost to the Colts by a point in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
They lost the Chargers in week 3 by just 3 points. Like they've lost 2 games this season by a combined 4 points. Like, and they've won, just as many games by similar margins. So that is very correct. Like, it's been a very weird season. I think next week against the Texans will be a good test for where the offense specifically is really at, because this is arguably the best defense in football right now. Like the Houston defense is trying their damn hardest to keep them relevant, and they've done a pretty good job at it. So if Bo Nix and this offense can kind of build on that momentum that they caught fire against the Cowboys, then maybe I'll have a little bit more faith. But I think you're right in the sense that they do play to the level of their opponents, but I think they also are riding the coattails of this extremely dominant defense too. So I think they're closer to like what we're seeing from Houston than they are than what we're seeing from, let's say, like, I don't know, I guess the Eagles, or the Colts. I don't know, a better team.
Yeah,
but they're one of those. They're 6-2. Like, they have a really good record. They're another, like, does the record really tell the full story type of teams? And I would lean closer to no than yes.
Yeah. It was a good mention about the defense, because it actually reminded me that Pat Surtain is going to be out for some time.
Yeah,
and it's looking like an IR, a possible IR placement.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even longer than just the allotted 4 weeks. We don't know yet, but that is the backbone to that defense. Like, outside of Myles Garrett, there might not be one player so important to their defense than Surtain is to the Broncos defense. Like, all game long, it is just picking on Riley Moss. That's the entire game plan of every offense when they play that team. So when it's going to be Riley Moss and who the hell, like Jahdae Barron, they're going to bounce him outside. Like, I don't know what their game plan is going to be with Pat Surtain out, but yeah, I'm actually a little worried now that I just remembered that he's gonna be out, because they don't really have a whole lot going for him outside of him in that corner room.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get after the quarterback extra hard, and they've done a good job at it this year. I think they lead the league in sacks, But I do think this is one of those teams that one of those defenses, I should say, that are able to marry coverage and pass rush like every single game, every single snap. They're the reason why I think the pass rush is as good as it is because they get such good man coverage down the field. Almost down on a down-to-down basis, and it's vice versa. The reason why they're able to play as much man coverage as they do is because they get as much pressure as they do. So they marriage it well. It will be interesting to see how they manage if they're trying to trot Riley Moss out and Jahdae Barron out there in man-to-man and see how they fare. Something tells me we'll see a little bit more zone coverage from Denver within these next couple of weeks. But yeah, it's like just so weird. They're fake. If I had to label like a few fake teams in the league right now that have like a good record that would suggest they're actually a top team, they definitely would be. They would be in my fake category for sure.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that their fans have taken such a non-reasonable approach to this whole thing. Like it's like Bo Nix is top 10. I've been telling you guys forever. Bo Nix is top 10. Like we are seeing a Colts team that is 7-1, and all you've heard from Colts fans is just like, I'm so thankful for Daniel Jones. Like they're not rubbing it in your face. Like nobody's making a whole fuss about it. Same with Seahawks fans. Like they've had an incredible offseason that everyone doubted them. And they're just happy to be there. Like they're just happy that Darnold's this good. They're not rubbing it in your face that he's, that everyone was wrong. Broncos fans are everywhere being really annoying about it. And I think that's partially why I'm going to punish them with another bad grade. I'm going to give them a 10 just because that's really annoying.
It is like, there are just some fan bases, man, that really can't keep quiet. And
God, they can't get humbled. Like you can't just exist and win games and be happy and go home. Like you have to immediately pull out Twitter when you beat the Giants in a thriller, when you beat the Jets by 2 in London. You have to go to Twitter and say how good Bo Nix was that day. It gets annoying.
It's not even like any of the actual good players either. They have to take to Twitter to argue and bat for their most controversial talent. Like, what about Zach Allen? Like, why don't you go on Twitter and just talk about how good Zach Allen is or something?
Yeah, no, they don't care about Zach Allen. It's they're defending Riley Moss. They're defending Bo Nix. It's so stupid.
Well,
like, no, I was gonna say it's just insane that like someone like the Colts could be 7-1. And like we know it, but they don't make us know it. We're just starting to know. We just notice that we're like, oh my god, they won again. What is their record? Oh my god, they're 7-1. Whereas the Broncos, it's like we just watch them play like shit against terrible teams and come up with a gritty win, and we're like, oh great, they're 6-2.
Yeah,
whoop-de-doo.
And now we got to hear about it.
Yeah.
Well, a team that I feel like we're going to be hearing a lot more from lately, I should say in the near future, is Baltimore. And I think it's going to get very loud very fast. And I gave them a 4.8 on my panic scale, only because of the future. Like, I really do think that Lamar is going to come back and they're going to roll. Them winning this past week against Chicago, who was on a 4-game winning streak, mind you, without Lamar Jackson after the whole snafu with his practice label and the controversy with that was like probably the worst thing that could have happened for anybody in the entire league this past game. And no one really talked about it. And I think it's going to be scary if they're able to string these next few games together and they're suddenly, hovering around 500, which I think is more likely than not, truthfully.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they went through a gauntlet of really, really good teams to start off the year, and then they didn't have their starting quarterback. And to have Tyler Huntley come in and look like that Pro Bowl Tyler Huntley that we saw that one time, it wasn't great to see for the rest of the league, to be so honest, because that win could have really buried them.
Mm-hmm.
or at least made it really, really harder to come back. But they somehow won. I don't know how they did. And with Lamar coming back, that only makes Derrick Henry better. That only makes everybody else better. And their schedule isn't that difficult from here on out. So I definitely would be worried if I'm a Steelers fan right now. Thinking I have a pretty easy walk to the division with Joe Burrow going down and Lamar missing time, and then the Ravens win a game and Lamar's coming back presumably this week. So I I'd be clutching my pearls if I'm a Steelers fan. I'm more worried if I'm them. For the Ravens, I gave them a 3 because if you don't do great this season, like, you know why. It was injury. It's nothing to panic about. Like, it happened. You missed a bunch of time. And now we'll see if we can crawl back. But all your studs are still pretty young, minus Derrick Henry. They still have a really good foundation of a really good team. I'm not worried about them at all.
No, I'm not either. And I know, to some degree, this is a team that was supposed to be, competing for the Super Bowl this year. And they were a team that, we thought would have the 1 seed, and we had all these aspirations and high hopes for. And of course, starting off the season 1-5 was not ideal, but now you're 2-5, and you're kind of almost, despite those preseason expectations, playing with house money in a way. Like, you are not supposed to dig yourself out of this hole. Everyone understands that you lost your quarterback for a significant amount of time. If you go on to just miss the playoffs, or, even if you make it and losing the wild card, like, that's a successful season. Yeah. I would say in the eyes of most people, given how this year has started. And the fact that I think they're going to be able to play with, like, the pressure almost released from their shoulders of everything that they were supposed to be before the year started is, I think, even more terrifying. So there's just a lot going for them. And that, I think the one big lesson they learned is just not to employ a white non-mobile quarterback as their backup in the case Lamar goes down. Like, they could have won it. They could, if Huntley started, they probably are 3-4 right now.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah. And we hated that move when it happened. Like, they have to change their entire scheme. You could not find a guy more opposite than Lamar than Cooper Rush if you actually tried. You couldn't do it. Like, they might have the same measurables. They're both probably like 6'2". That's it. Nothing else. And it made absolutely zero sense. And when he played on the football field, it clearly showed that it made zero sense. Someone like Tyler Huntley was always, the kind of quarterback that can go out and kind of emulate a little bit the kind of offense they like to run with Lamar. Use his feet, throw on the run, have some energy. Don't be dumb and boring and slow. And that's just all Cooper Rush was for him. Like, I truly don't understand why they went to him to save their season, but he only damaged it. Tyler Huntley may have given them a really good shot to save it. Now it's time for Lamar to show what he can do, and I think he is very capable of doing it.
Did you see that video of Todd Monken, like, walking up to that? I think it was a fan. I'm not sure. It couldn't have been a fan. I'm not sure who he's walking up to, honestly. I'm probably going to get flamed because it was probably someone very prominent, and I don't know who it was. But he walked up to them, and he says something to the effect of, yeah, we fucking kicked their ass and everyone was fucking grilling me, or just something like very fiery and very motivated.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like, holy shit, this is like a scary attitude for a team like this to be harnessing. And that kind of plays into that whole, like, house money thing I was talking about. Like, they found their spark in a game that they probably didn't expect to. And now they're getting Lamar back. They didn't have to wait for him to return for them to feel this energy again. Like, oh boy, I'm scared. I'm scared.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a little raccoon that you just like they got nothing to lose. They fight dirty. They're gonna be scrappy. They got no expectations to win. They're just gonna fuck you up and scratch up your face while they're doing it. Like, it's even if they're not a team that can make the playoffs just because of how bad they were put in a hole, they can make life hell for everybody else. That's been my fantasy football ideology. When I lose a lot of games and I have a bad record, I might not make the playoffs, but I'm just going to still try and be really, really good and make everybody else that has high hopes lose along the way. And I think they might just be that team, which sucks for everybody else.
Yes, it sucks massively.
But you already played them, so you're and you beat them, so you're out, you're out of the way out of that. But
Yeah, yeah. For now until the divisional round, I just know it's gonna happen. I just know it. Well, speaking of a team that the Ravens took down, it was the Chicago Bears who also made this list for us, and I will kind of lean toward the higher side of the scale again, and I gave them a 7. This is a team coming off of a 4-game win streak going into Baltimore, and it just Caleb Williams again just could not find any sort of rhythm. It was just sporadic. It was just inaccuracy. There were plays that they needed that he wasn't on the same page as his receivers. A very just not motivating game for the first overall pick with Ben Johnson, after especially seeing the way that Drake May has been playing. Like, I don't think Ryan Poles should feel very good about the contrast of play between the two prospects so far, but I'm not going to give up on him. A lot of people are freaking out like, oh, Caleb just isn't that guy. Caleb isn't going to be anything. It's like, relax. Like, the guy is still a freak of nature playing quarterback only halfway through his first season with his long-term head coach. Like, I think he's going to be fine.
Like, people they truly don't understand how long it used to take quarterbacks to become good. And we're seeing it even with guys like Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold. Like, all of these quarterbacks that are having renaissances, like, these were all high-end draft picks for a reason. And sometimes it just takes a beat or even a full contract's length to fully become what people thought they could be. And Matt Ryan and JJ Watt were talking about it the other day. Like, JJ and Matt Ryan both agreed. They were like, yeah, if people judged me back then, if they had Twitter back when I played my first like 3 or 4 games, I would have got cut.
Yeah.
Terrible. Sometimes it just takes a while to become a good football player, especially when they have a new head coach, a new regime. Obviously, you want better results from the first overall pick. He's been very sporadic. He's been all over the place, but it just takes time. He's still very young, even like for being a second-year quarterback. He's still young for his age. So I don't know. I got some worries. I gave him a 5 because they just haven't shown reason to be fully optimistic yet. But at the same time, I don't think that like Caleb being sporadic, like breaking news, 23-year-old quarterback isn't, at full pro level yet. It happens. So I'm not super worried yet, but still I'm not excited. So I put him right in the middle out of 5.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. I wonder if this is going to be, I think this is a team that probably should be leaning on their defense a little bit more than they have been as well, because I think a lot of the stock of Chicago has been put into the offense, of course, and their defense hasn't been bad, but I think for a guy like Caleb Williams, an offense that could be it could go through such a bad dry spell like we saw against Baltimore. It would have been nice to have a defense that maybe could have kept the Ravens, a little bit more in the mud with them. Like, to give up 30 points to Tyler Huntley kind of doesn't feel great. Like, sometimes Caleb isn't going to play, the best football ever. He's a young quarterback. I think they did a good job of surrounding him with a ton of talent, but maybe it is getting to be time to kind of start to invest into the defense a little bit more and potentially give that side of the ball the chance to win a game for Chicago as well. Like, I can't remember the last time that Chicago's defense won them a game. Like, I don't think that's really ever happening.
They've been missing guys that they have 0 sack production ever. Yeah. Jalen Johnson's been hurt like the whole year. They've had a lot of things also not go great for them, but they're a team that doesn't really get a lot of grace just because they get so much hype in the offseason. Yeah. And I think that people correlate hype with like immediate results. They're like, wow, first overall pick, he needs to be a franchise mover day one.
Yeah.
Oh, like a super hyped up head coach. Like no coaching candidate has been hyped up like Ben Johnson in a long time. And people kind of expected him to just create the Lions offense year one. He didn't even create the Lions offense year one in Detroit. Like it took a long time to create something good in Detroit. Like they didn't even have a win for most of a season, to the fact that like it's a viral clip with Jared Goff's girlfriend or wife freaking out that they won a game. Like it was the same regime, a lot of the same players. It takes a long time to create something out of nothing. And that's what they're trying to do. And they're on year 1.5. I'm not that worried about it yet, especially because they actually are winning games.
Right, exactly. I think my 7 scale was more so in the scheme of just this season specifically, because it really did look like for a short span there, especially given their schedule, which is difficult toward the end of it, but for this next like middle period, really is not that hard. They could have made a run at the NFC South, or at the NFC North. I'm sorry, they were 4-2 before this game. They could have moved to 5-2, and then they would have had Cincinnati, the Giants, the Vikings, and the Steelers, all of which are very winnable games. And then suddenly we're talking about the Bears like competing with the Lions and the Packers as one of the best teams in the conference. And while I think it would have been more of like they're a good team, but they're not quite like contender level, they could have built some real momentum if they could have kind of broke through this game against Baltimore. So it kind of really does suck that they fell back into their ways in a game that they probably should have won. I mean, the Ravens defense played uncharacteristically great to their credit. Like they had been the worst defense in the NFL for the past like 4 weeks. So credit to them. But if they were able to just continue to kind of roll the way they had been, 26 points against the Saints, 25 against the Commanders, 25 against the Raiders, 31 against the Cowboys, all in their last 4 wins.
Mm.
So it just does kind of really slow down what I think could have been a really good stretch of games that could have really done something great for this season. So
yeah, it was a bad loss, but
yeah.
I feel pretty comfortable about them winning at least 2 out of their 3 next games. I think they're going to have a really good bounce back, and at that point, like you're still sitting at 6-4 ish, if that's the case, and you got to feel pretty decent about that.
I agree, and somehow that will get lost in the shuffle because Caleb will, I don't know, run around for 5 seconds and take a bad sack in a game, and then
paint his nails, and then he'll get death threats like that. It's so strange, but.
Another very strange team that I want to talk about is the Texans. They go out and they beat down the 49ers. That completely threw a whole loop for my projection of whatever the Texans are. And that's why they fit this episode well, because I think the panic meter is a good scale to kind of figure out like what the answers are to some of the biggest questions. And I gave them a 6.9. Like they were a team prior to this week that probably would have been like upper 8, to be honest with you. But to take down a Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh team that's been so disciplined, that's been so perfect, honest to God, they really have played such good football. Just to like impound them into the ground was a statement. I mean, a statement, I would say.
It was. And I gave them a 5, another pretty like average score, because it's just been so up and down. Like there are times where their offense is an unwatchable product, but their defense has been so consistently dominant. Like they have still like what have they given up 20 points like once the entire year? Like that is they currently have a championship level defense, which you have to be shocked has not won them more games. But they've lost games scoring 9 points, scoring 10 points, scoring 19 2 times. Like they're losing games because they've been incapable of scoring 20 points, which is a huge problem. And finally, like the last couple weeks, they've seemed to have found some kind of offense, some kind of rhythm. The offensive line has performed a little bit better, and that's really given Stroud some confidence, it looks like. And if we have a confident Stroud, I feel really good about this team. If he's finally making plays on time, on rhythm, not looking scared, not looking like he's about to get beaten to death, then I feel good about him. Because all they have to do right now is score 20 points and they win because their defense is playing stupid right now.
Yeah. Yeah. A confident Stroud is a deadly one. Like this version of CJ that we saw in the San Fran game was the version that I thought we would see more of this season. He threw 39 times in this game, had 30 completions for 318 and 2 touchdowns. Also threw a pick, but this wasn't an offense clicking on every level. Like they actually ran the ball better than I thought they did, which is a surprise to me. They had 157 yards on the ground actually. But nonetheless, they had a lot of people get involved with Nico Collins out. They had 9 different receivers catch a football this past week. So that was something that was a big concern with Nico out. Like, where is the ball going to go? Because Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins really hadn't gotten too involved lately. Nobody loves Xavier Hutchinson. Nobody really wants to see Braxton Berrios out there, but it was good that they were able to muster up a game plan. Nick Caley was able to find a way to get these other players involved instead of trying to lean on like Dalton Schultz to like grind their way down the field. Like they adjusted in a way that I didn't think they could, to be quite honest with you, based off of what we've seen so far.
Yeah. And it's just like a classic case of, did they just have a great game plan and beat a team? Or is this who they are now? Like, did they finally find their groove?
Yeah.
And is this what the Texans will look like going forward? Plus Nico Collins and maybe Tank Dell whenever he comes back. That should be pretty soon, I think. Outside of all that, it's just like it's just a guessing game of what is their norm. Yep. And if this can be their norm, like, I feel really, really, really good about them and their future, but they just need to keep showing any signs of offensive consistency, especially through the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they're able to, then we might be seeing a Texans team. They're only 3-4, so if they're able to string together a few games in this middle portion of the season, then who knows where they'll factor in come late December. So the AFC is terrible as it has looked. Could get very spicy if some of these teams really pick it up, and that would go for the last team we're going to talk about, the Buffalo Bills. They go and put together a beatdown against Carolina. And I, for one, wasn't the most inspired. It really was just timely defensive plays like usual. And James Cook. It was a classic Bills game, to be quite honest with you, which was a breath of fresh air given the struggles that they've kind of shown as of late. And I gave them a 6 for that reason. But still not confident in the passing game. I mean, there was like multiple plays where Josh Allen running around trying to find somebody to get open. Nobody could. So another example of like, Brandon Beane, dude, do it. Do something.
Yeah.
Like this has to be the final straw.
This feels like one of the most wide open wide receiver markets at any trade deadline in recent memory. Like, you have so many guys that I do believe would be capable of getting 1,000 yards in that Bills offense. And right now they don't have a guy on that team that is capable of it. And it's very clear, like, you can't rely on the run game to win you every single game. With how inconsistent that defense can be, you can't rely on them to win you games. Your MVP quarterback is the guy that you have to rely on to win you games. And if you can't supply him with even slightly above average weapons, that's a problem. Like, they've done a really good job of building around him, getting a fantastic offensive line. James Cook, getting him back was huge. He's been incredible this season. But it's not hard to just get an average receiving core. They are so far below average that it's not even funny. And their quarterback is the only reason why they're still there, because he has been able to somewhat make them look, quarter competent. But if that was Mitch Trubisky back there, I don't know if they would complete a single thing.
I don't want to think about that.
No, you don't. I've had to see it in my own eyes and my own offense. When you put Jake Browning back there, it's terrible. And I gave them a 2. I'm not worried about it, but I also have confidence that they have a really good opportunity to go get any kind of receiver, Jacoby Myers, any of the guys from New Orleans, somebody. Like anybody will make a huge difference and make this offense look 10 times scarier.
Yeah, this scale, this grade definitely is contingent on their activity come next Tuesday, especially given the injury to Ed Oliver too. Like, I don't think that I would necessarily rather them go and get a defensive tackle over a receiver if that's what it comes down to. If they can, get depth at both positions, that would be great. But I am definitely concerned. Like, if we don't have an addition come next Tuesday, then I'm not sure who the hell we're going to stop on the ground. I'm not sure how the passing game is going to fix itself. Like, it is very much so dependent on what happens in this next week. So if nothing happens, I might be upping my panic level to a 10. If they do make a move, they kind of go and get some defensive tackle help. If they go and get a receiver that we think can make a difference, then hey, I can bump it down and feel safer. But right now, I got to put them in the middle ground because I don't have the most confidence that they're going to be like, yeah, you know what, we have these problems, we're going to go fix them. I don't know. I'm scared.
I think if there's any team that needs to, it's them, because when you have Josh Allen, when you have James Cook, you're always going to be in Super Bowl contention in some way. So I have faith, but yeah, they have to make a move. Part of why I had a lower score was I'm pretty confident that they will, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows is right. You will see a big red button just blasted if there is none.
Fair.
But that will wrap up our 69th episode. And it was fun. This was literally the least competitive week of NFL football, I think, ever. Like, almost every game except the Jets and the Bengals, one of the least important games of the season, was entertaining. And like, who even cared? No one. Like, terrible product. But we'll do another recap next week, assuming it's better. If it's not, we'll be back with some other bullshit. But for now, we will see you guys in episode number 70.